Hey, everybody, welcome to the What's Up Solar Podcast with your host, Emmitt Muckles. Cleanly shaven, dressed to impress, and ready to suit and boot. A couple of weeks ago, I think it was a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so ago,
Couple
I'm at
months.
this, I'm at this show and I'm walking. Do, 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 do. I was at Intersolar and walk across the street and I'm looking at this guy who's talking to another guy. And I'm like, I know that guy. And so I didn't think nothing of it because I didn't want to be rude and creepy. So a little later on, I go past the booth and I'm going, hey, no, I send a message on LinkedIn. I'm like, were you just outside? And he's like, yeah, that was me. Then I stop by the booth and we have a little conversation on camera. And now we're here. And his name is Joe Marhamati. What's happening? I actually wanted to pull out my guitar and open up with Hey Joe, but that's okay.
Well, now I'm offended that you didn't do that. I actually insist that everybody who has that instinct do that.
That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about Sunvoy because you laid out something that's actually pretty cool. Is you made a platform that's open to everybody, kinda.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much open to everybody. Although I had a conversation this morning in a country that won't be named that I'm very fond of, that I've been to, that is a little new in solar, is growing very fast. And so there's some countries that don't have the level of organization that the US has. Like
Yeah.
you have to have a CRM to use Sunvoy. You can't be on chalkboards and whiteboards and stuff. And you got to have some level of organization. But beyond that, if you're a solar installer with a CRM and inverters, which most solar installers have some inverters, then you can use our platform. So we're now in like 15 countries.
So explain to me like I'm five. What is the Sunvoy platform?
Well, you know how you go on to your like My Verizon, My Comcast, whatever customer portal for your internet provider, right?
Yes.
Everyone is accustomed to having that for their internet provider, but nothing like that has ever existed for the solar industry, at least not for the small regional players that you and I talk to every day. Maybe if you've got a big box installer, you might have something like that. But let's face it, most solar in this country is built by local installers and they have no way of interfacing with their customers. Their customers don't know what stage their project's at, can't access their project documents. They can't even see their monitoring in a single location. They might have to log into multiple manufacturer apps.
That's
So
true.
we built a customer portal, just like your My Verizon or your My Comcast or whatever, for your local regional solar installer that exists from the minute the person signs up for solar through the 30-year life of that system.
This is what I love. I love when people think outside the box and say, what's missing? That is here, a single tear is going to roll down from the corner of my eye. All right,
Just
so
one?
now we got the basics. Let's go back because I like to find out how everybody got to where they are, especially in solar. But yours started at the Department of Energy?
Yeah. It started at the Department of Energy. So I've been in solar for almost 20 years. So if you see the gray hairs now on both sides, yep. I guess I'm a solar warrior now or veteran or whatever. So I started at the U.S. Department of Energy, and I had a really good strategy for getting a job at DOE, which is I was like a secretary for many years at various government agencies, and people would offer me jobs and say, I don't want to work at your agency. This place is boring. I want to work at the DOE. And so I just told everybody I met for like 3 years that I wanted to work at the DOE, and I finally got an interview with somebody while I was at graduate school in American University, and they were starting up this program. Maybe you've heard of it. It's called the Loan Programs Office. It was a project finance shop. It still is project finance shop within the DOE that funded $30 billion in loans during the Recovery Act in 2008, 2009 to 2011. So I was there when the first utility scale solar projects were being built and financed through DOE for, gosh, it was a few years. It was about 3 to 5 years when we were working through those first few projects, setting up this program. And then after 2011, the Recovery Act funds expired, and we were, monitoring these billion-dollar 500 megawatt solar projects, mostly PV, some thermal.
Yeah.
But those are really the first projects that built the modern American solar industry.
What year was that? I,
The program was set up through the 2005 Energy Policy Act, and then It was really kind of like got going around 2008. So I was one of the first 10 or 20 employees there. And I was just like a college intern or something. I was a GS5, man, making government minimum wage. And we were just setting up the NEPA program and the engineering program and the finance program. This was in the aughts. That's how old I am.
Well, we don't want to talk about age. We really don't want to talk about that. So how did you pivot? How did you say, I need to, let me backtrack. How did you come to the fact that you said, like, all right, there's some challenges in the industry, and I see one that I can serve.
Well, so after my government experience, I spent a year in the Obama White House too. I was the energy policy advisor to the chief sustainability officer who was working on sustainability for all the agencies, and it was a cool experience. But 2016, there was a change in administrations, and the new administration was not as friendly to this program. So I made a friend in the loan program at DOE. We went out and built a solar business. And it was a pretty standard regional solar business serving the Washington, D.C. area. And we built that up over 8 years. And it was one of the most tech-forward solar installers in the country,
Hmm.
Ipsen Solar, which we actually sold 2 years ago today during the solar eclipse. Do you believe that story, Emmett? That's true. I can't possibly make that up. So 2 years ago, we sold that business. And at about the last couple of years of that business, we recognized this problem in the industry where after PTO, installers would hand over the customer relationship to a panoply of manufacturers. And actually, one time I was at a NABCEP conference. I think were you at the NABCEP conference?
Come on,
Were you
dude.
there? Okay,
I'm
of course you were
always
there.
at the
You're the
naps.
NAPSEP guy. You and Sean White and those guys. You're the NAPSEP guy. So I was there a few years ago in North Carolina, and a friend of mine in the
Oh
industry
yeah.
had a booth. This is a guy in the solar industry, and I was like, "Hey, who installed your solar on your house?" And he thought SMA installed his solar system. This is somebody in the solar industry
Wait, wait. Oh
because
no, 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 no,
he
no, 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 no. Start this. This isn't. This was just somebody who was a customer, an installer. I'm confused. How
a
is that?
vendor, a vendor. This is
I could see that.
somebody who's
I
a
could see.
vendor
I
who,
could see that.
is kind of not in the hardware game, let's say. And he thought SMA installed a solar system because it had been so many years, and that was the app he had on his phone. And so
I
this is a big problem that a lot of homeowners, they forget their installer, they don't know where they are, they don't know how to contact them, they don't know what they're selling. And so we built this customer portal, this product within our own solar business, a branded customer portal. And we saw the impact on referrals, reviews, upsells, lifetime value of our customers. And we're like, hey, I think we're onto something here. And that's when we sold the construction business and invested everything in the software.
I mean, software is the thing. Data. I was just doing this. I was in the car taking my dog to the dog park or to the dog daycare, and I was testing out Gemini's voice thing. And I asked a simple question because no one really talks about this. I'm like, why are data centers so important? And it laid it out. Data is king. Everything is data. There are refrigerators that have data now. Everything in your house is connected, is flowing data. If it's connected to your internet of somehow your phone, your car, you name it, and you tapped into it because you said, how can I provide data as a service to make people more comfortable?
You got that exactly right. And so now we have integrated with basically the entire solar industry. Name three inverters for me. You can get really obscure. You can say whatever you want.
Really? Because I'm gonna pull out one that I am
Well, don't
going
get
to
too obscure, but
I'm gonna pull out one, and you might just reach through the screen and like, Huawei.
we have a Huawei integration.
Wow. Way.
Hmm. Yeah,
All
man.
right,
We got a
I got
Huawei
another one.
integration. Hit me.
This is going to be obscure. Sun gold.
Oh, I've never even heard of that. You got to pick ones I've heard of before. That's a rule.
That's more in the off-grid kind of community, but
Oh, come
they
on.
can do grid type stuff. I'm trying to think. Keiko, old Keiko.
Keiko, yeah, again, it's is that also kind of off-grid 80s stuff?
No, it's not. It's not 80s. Keiko was big in like the aughts, and then they went through some stuff, but I think they're still viable. I think they're under another company. I've
Okay,
the
okay.
reason I know is because I had to there's a company that had them under contract, under management, and they were like,
Yeah.
"What do we do with these? It's not working." I was like, "Oh, we gotta press this button and do this and do that." They're like, "How do you know that?" I'm like, "I'm old."
Well, I'm talking about stuff getting installed today, like
Oh,
inverters getting installed today.
I don't know. There's so many.
There's so many, right? We got them all, man. We got them all. We got Sig Energy. We got Solax. We got Solus. We got SunGrow, SolarArc, SolarEdge, SMA, Solar Man. Never heard of that one before I
EG4?
started doing this. We got AG4, Tesla, Sun Power. We built the only sun power integration in the industry. Tygo, Victron, Huawei, Hoy Miles, Growatt, GoodWe, Fox, Franklin, Fronius, Generac. We got everything, man. We integrated with everything, every CRM,
Okay.
every piece of hardware, every design tool.
All right. I understand that. But we also have to think about we're in a new age. As of 2020, even though we went through the pandemic, we also went through an energy pivot where now we're not just slapping up an inverter and some modules and some junction boxes, we're adding storage. At first, it was just storage, but then, as of like maybe 2024, then we have power control systems. The reason I'm bringing this up is because you can cobble together a system with a battery from a manufacturer, a micro interconnect device from a third party, a power control system such as SPAN, and you have a Tesla inverter. Is this where you say
Yeah.
your value comes in because you're like, I'm going to pull all this data so that you can see what is going on?
That's exactly right. So around 2020, yeah, around COVID time, we went from being solar only industry to being a solar plus storage plus EV charging plus circuit level monitoring plus load control plus a bunch of other, now HVAC and roofing. So you had some people, I had some customers who were logging into 5 different apps to
Yeah.
see what was going on with the stuff that we installed. First of all, nobody's doing that. No one's saying is doing that. And second of all, it's a terrible customer experience to tell your customer, here's your 5 apps that have nothing to do with our company. Just good luck, log into all of them every day and see what's going on. So we brought all that data into a single place. So if you got X on the roof and Y on the ground and ABC in the garage and this other thing for your load control, you could see it all in one place in the branded app of the solar installer, and now it's a better experience because it's unified, but also you're getting that brand equity, that brand recognition. Every time they log in, they see your logo. They have a way to refer their neighbor. They see their eShop to buy whatever it is, new products and services your company is selling.
So how is it that it's their brands? What's the process? Hey, this is Emmett Solar in Valparaiso, Indiana. I have all these customers and I'm installing a plethora of things. I got to quit using that word things. A plethora of equipment. And I want them to have a really great customer experience with their phone. What is that process for me? And I have this cool logo too.
Well, you would be astonished to know the lengths that we go to create a white label app for the solar installer. So it literally looks like the solar installer built the app themselves, their logo, their colors, their brand, their URL, like my.emmettsolar.com or portal.emmettsolar.com. And then we put it in the Google Play and the Apple App Store too, which is a lot of work because, working with Google and Apple now is like working with a government agency because these
Yeah.
companies are so huge. It takes months to get the app in the App Store, but it doesn't say Sunvoy anywhere online, on the web-based, on the Apple Store, anywhere. So it looks to the staff of that company and their employees like they built an app for their staff and their employees. We don't show up anywhere. And even in the App Store, it says built by Emmitt Solar, which just that piece right there, it takes an extra month of work from us just so it doesn't say built by Sunvoy in the App Store.
Really?
That is the extreme lengths that we go to make it 100. Yes, because, and here's the reason. We could have an Apple account that's Sunvoy's Apple account
Yeah.
that says built, that's just one account. We have to create 100 different accounts for each installer so that it says built by them. And it's because we were an installer. So we know the value of having 100% white labeling in your marketing.
So when it comes to hiccups, software, back end stuff, you take care of all of that. So if Emmett Solar is having a problem with some kind of function because the customer is like complaining about it, I come to you. Say like, hey, Joe, but I have this issue that my customers and you back in fix it.
Close. So here's what we do. You think I'm going to answer your customers' comms issues? No, I'm not going to do that. That's a little too far. That's I got boundaries, man. But here's what we will do. Here's what we will do. So you know how in solar companies you have customers calling the CEO, the salesperson, the project manager, the inside sales team, this other guy, the crew lead, with whatever random questions. That's just how it works, by the way, in case
Yeah,
you don't know.
it is.
It's a pain in the ass, and it wastes a ton of money and everybody's time, and it hurts morale too. So what we say is tell your customers there's only one way to submit a service ticket. It's in the Emmitt Solar app or the ABC or the whatever your solar company name is app. And that's it. That's the only way to submit a service ticket. Don't call everybody in the company. Don't text everybody in the company. Don't email everybody in the company. This is it, Mrs. Jones. Here you go. And then your O&M tech in the morning, they can see them all in one place, pushes back into your CRM. I just saved you 10,000 hours of company time.
That's sweet. That's sweet. Now, there's a thing that solar people have been saying since 2008 when solar got popular. This is great for 25 years. Solar had not been even up for 25 years, except for in the space station or something like that, right? But you've thought about it because you give this, you mentioned 30 years. Uh, Tell me about that.
Well, I know exactly what you mean. I had some salespeople who would say stuff like that, and I would slap them on the wrist. No moving parts, no maintenance.
Oh,
It just works forever. Yeah, I've heard that. Um, no, the trend was 10 years ago. You would hope as a solar installer that that customer would never call you back,
right.
and that if they did, you'd be in the bathroom and sorry, I didn't hear your phone call. And that was kind of the way things worked. Sunvoy is trying to turn that on its head. And we have a lot of installers who say, I don't want to invite all my old customers into my app. They're going to complain and ask questions and all this other stuff. But here's actually what happens. People do ask some questions, but you get a ton of referrals. You get
Yeah.
a ton of reviews and upsells because Miss Jones, who went solar only 10 years ago, she didn't even know you're selling batteries and she just had an outage at her house last week. And Mr. Doe over here, he just bought a Tesla and he didn't even know you were offering EV chargers. And this guy over here, his neighbor wants solar, but he couldn't even remember the name of your company.
Oh, right.
So it turns out when you invite the 5,000 people you've installed solar for that forgot the name of your company, they have a lot of value they want to provide to you. Yeah, they got some questions, but they got more value. And I always say there's more money on the table after PTO than before you sold the project because there's so many people out there who want all of this other stuff.
That's a big one. And this is one of the things that I say or tell people who are newer into the industry or thinking about getting into solar. Emmett, I want to get into solar. Who can I work for? I was like, first, just go volunteer for a solar company. Just go be a grunt and learn everything you can. Then do a couple of installs and understand how it works with Ohm's law, AC and DC. They're like, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, then petition in an area that has a high concentration of solar that need their stuff fixed. There's This is what I come from an automotive background. One of the biggest profit centers in automotive is not selling the car, it is service of the car. In any industry, a lot of the big profit centers are service, repairing things, maintaining things. You don't see that here. That's not even part of the business model until recently. It's starting to get a trickle in. And with your app, oh, you could create a whole division or just hire one person like this is what you do. You go fix stuff.
You got it. Yeah, so we actually have a Sunvoy installer that you're not even gonna believe this. They sell a service plan with active monitoring for $33 a month. I just signed up for a service plan with my HVAC provider over the winter because on the East Coast we had one of the coldest winters in a decade and I had some HVAC issues. I signed up for a service plan with my HVAC provider for like $70 a month. And
Ooh,
that was not as possible 10 years ago, but you know why it's possible now? Because
because
there's
they
a
can.
lot of people with storage. There's a lot of people with batteries that want to know that thing is going to work just as much as they want to know their HVAC is going to work when the storm comes through. Homeowners are happy to pay you 50, 30, 50, $70 a month for a service plan. And we enable that. So we have an eShop where you can build your own service plan. We're coming out with recurring revenue here in a couple of months. Will you be able to charge your customers recurring revenue for service plan and build recurring revenue within your business? We have active monitoring because we know what the actual production is from every piece of hardware in the industry, as well as your estimated generation from all the design tools. So I know exactly what you're talking about because I see it in the HVAC industry. I see it in the automobile industry. Let's do it for the solar industry.
Yeah, it people don't understand something. I I'm on an advisory council for my city. And prior, I was talking about solar, 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 solar. And people are like, we don't want modules on the roof. We don't want this. Well, people also don't pay attention to their electricity bills. They get the bill and go, oh, either it's high or it's low. I'm going to complain about it's high, but I'm going to pay it. But they don't know what their rates are. They don't know what their therms are. They don't know anything. In addition to that, the services, the utilities will come out and say, hey, in a couple next year, we're going to raise your rates by this, and this is why. People are just like, ah. So the rates raised, right? And everybody's up in arms. There's protests, there's Facebook marches, there's all kinds of stuff. And I'm simply like, why don't you just take your own energy into your energy needs into your own hands? That way you
Well,
don't
you know,
don't have to deal with them.
you know what I used to say, and I still say this when I talk to solar salespeople. When you're talking to homeowners, the best way to make it tangible and obvious for them is to say solar is an untaxed stock market return with no volatility. It's untaxed because it's just savings on your utility bill. It's a stock market return because when you really look at the savings relative to the investment, even post ITC, as we get costs down, it's about the same as your stock portfolio. And there's no volatility because as long as the sun rises tomorrow, man, you're getting the same return day in, day out, year in, year out, minus, a little degradation. And people can understand that. People
Mm.
want an untaxed stock market return with no volatility because they see volatility in their portfolio. And they certainly pay taxes around this time every year.
Yeah.
And so it's a very tangible way to describe the value of solar when you see utility rates climbing faster than inflation.
So one thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to share my screen. And when I share my screen, I'm going to come up on this website. Do, 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 do. Boom. So is that how it looks when you get it? Just shows a family. This is your website.
Exactly. Yeah, we put your baby in there. Yeah. Yeah, no, basically if you go down a little bit, you can see you can see what the white labeling looks like. So check this out. These are fake solar companies, by the
Of
way.
course.
But just to give people an idea, like it's basically a branded app, 100% white labeled, your branding, your logo, your colors. And like I said, it's the same kind of thing that you would use to interact with your internet service provider or a big box solar company that's a coast to coast company. But now we're not only leveling the playing field for local regional installers, we built something that's way more powerful than my Verizon or than what a big box solar company would have because we're improving it every single day. Those
Mm.
apps, as you and I know, they're pretty static. Those
Yeah.
companies don't make a lot of updates to them. They're really meant to be pretty static. This, we're updating it I literally every single day. In fact, I'll tell you about the feature that we just launched this morning. I just saw it. So, when you have a referral, it's tough in solar when you have a referral because the person that made the referral, they're like, where's my money? Where's my $500 bonus? But you want to wait until that person they referred, their project is real, the project is sold, the project is permanent, the project's interconnected. And so they got to wait, a month or two to get their check, right? And people get frustrated by that.
Yeah.
Now in Sunvoy, it will automatically trigger you to send that payment whenever you want, if it's past permit, past interconnection, procurement, installation. So you don't have to wonder and the customer's waiting, and then you can drop that money in their bank account with a click of a button. You don't have to send them a check. And we take care of all the taxes related to that as well. So we have a whole referral payout management system, just one of the features of this product.
So you've got a bunch of features. Do you have a training or a demo where people can, where installers can view this, or other than the wonderful What's Up Solar podcast, that people can gather more information?
Yes, yeah. If you go to sunvoy.com/free, we have a free version. You can put in like your Enphase, your SolarEdge, API keys. And then I always joke with the installers, how many systems have you installed? Nobody knows how many systems they've installed because I got 10 different inverters and the data is all over the place. So if you do that, today, you can go see how many systems you've installed for the first time ever. You'll find out how many systems you've actually installed in your company's lifetime. And then you can unlock the whole thing, the whole platform for the active monitoring and the customer side, commercial side. We also work with commercial solar.
Mm.
Start with sunvoy.com/free and then unlock all the other features.
And this is a subscription, not like, okay, I'm going to pay for this and then I'm good for life.
Yeah, it's a subscription, but it's all usage based. So if
Oh,
you don't use it, you don't pay anything. It's $95 per resi project, $4.95 for commercial, one time at PTO for 30 years of access. So you pay one time, it's about a cent a watt on average for resi and commercial. And then we have a small $3 per site fee for ongoing maintenance. All your legacy sites are free. So you got 40,000 legacy sites. They're free. We don't charge
just
you anything.
import
Only
them.
new projects. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I'm so glad I ran into you on the street and then texted you and then met you. And now you're on the WhatsApp Solo podcast. So thank you, Joe, for being a guest.
Emmett, I really appreciate you actually acknowledging me, introducing yourself, because I'm at those shows to meet people, especially NABCEP certified people. You guys are at the top of the food chain because you actually know what you're talking about. So I appreciate you taking the time at the show to interview me, coming to the booth and inviting me here. It's been super fun, man.
Cool. Well, today is we're getting towards the summertime months, and every day I am just so grateful. I am so thankful when I wake up, I have my coffee, I open my door, actually my blinds, and I sit on the edge of my couch and I'm like a cat. And I'm just like letting these rays of the sun just bask over me while I contemplate life. And then that sun tells me, hey, you need to start doing stuff. And it's going across the sky. So it's my timekeeper, it's my mood regulator. It does a lot of things. And you know what? It does this all free of charge because the one thing the sun never has done for me is sent me a bill. Till next time, peace.